Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends, my colleagues, President Nangagwa, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 27th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. This year, we've got over 12,000 participants and over 100 countries participating in this event. These are shareholders and managers of leading companies, experts and analysts, statesmen. Our forum allows not just to establish new economic contacts and start interesting projects, but also exchange opinions on global trends, on global markets and local markets. Also talk about, through the lens of economic relationships, a look at the events that are unfolding in the world. And we see that there's a race to establish sovereignty around the world, and on several levels, on economic level, on a cultural level, and on the level of values. And those who used to be leaders of the global development are trying to hold on to their role still, and there's nothing unusual about this. When a person is trying to keep its positions or his positions, that's a usual thing. And we see that economy number one in the world is China. Third is India, a global leader in terms of dynamic growth. We see that louder and louder we hear the voices of countries of Asia and Africa, where they've got a high level of birth rate and low level of urbanization. According to experts, according to specialists in the field, these countries will determine the future trends of development. I'd like to add that today we've got an explosion in the field of technology, almost in every area of life. All processes, management processes, and even industries are affected by this. And of course, it will be those countries that are making these new solutions, creating these new solutions, but not only making those solutions, but it will be able to implement those. We see that the financial sector has changed significantly. Electronic trade, transportation, state government, similar processes are developing in the field of military, where we need a high pace of technological development. These are the key determining questions for our country in the current situation and in the long-term perspective. The future of countries depends on how well they'll be able to respond to these global challenges, whether they'll be able to use their internal potential, whether they'll be able to minimize their weaknesses and establish new partnerships with other countries. Since February this year, in my address to this state address, I've established certain priorities, and we have outlined a program for development until the end of the year and beyond. We are focusing on the economic development of the country, on the fundamental changes that are happening in the country, and we are aiming to support these trends. We see that we need resources, administrative resources, human resources on all levels, on regional and on state levels. We talked about the national programs. So what are the changes? Number one, taking into account the international nature of our event. I'll start with economic relationships, with the positions that we're aiming to establish on the international market. Despite all the obstacles and illegitimate sanctions, Russia remains one of the key participants in world trade. It's actively developing logistics, expanding its geography, and we're expanding our relationships with Asian countries. We see that there's a 60% growth from 2020 to 2023. Latin America, 62% growth. And I assume that the presidents of Bolivia and Zimbabwe will also touch upon these subjects. Overall, they're friendly countries to Russia, and we should focus on that first of all. We should focus on the fast-growing economies of the world. They will be determining the future of the global economy. We see that 3/4 of our trade volume is with those countries. We are continuing to work with Eurozone countries, and we see that last year the total GDP of this union grew by 3.8%. We see that the structure of this trade has improved, and we see that there is more supply of highly technological goods, and we are going to support this highly technological export from Russia. By 2030, we are aiming to increase the volume of such exports by 2/3 compared to 2023. And we're talking not just about exports in terms of tons or meters or units of goods. We're talking about goods of highly technological goods. We are talking about expansion of cooperation. All of this is important. However, this is not sufficient today. We are prepared to offer other countries full format technological partnerships and industrial partnerships. We are prepared to ensure the full cycle of production of these goods, engineering support, insurance, and so on. Such approach to cooperation on the equal basis, on the basis of competences, not on the basis of monopolization, this ensures stability of our companies on the world market. This allows us to work with foreign partners on a long-term basis. And it's exactly how one of our leaders works in the market, Rosatom. This is how they work on a long-term basis. They are a leader in nuclear plant construction. It's necessary to establish and strengthen transportation links. So in the Asia Pacific and China, some of the major projects for us include the eastern railways. So we are moving to the third stage of modernization of these railways, and we are going to increase the capacity of the eastern railways to 210 million ton. We will also put particular attention to the southern corridor, Russia South corridor. The Northern Sea route is also very important. 36 million ton was transported through that route. We are going to increase that number, and we're going to continue to improve the infrastructure of these ports. We are going to focus specifically on the northern subjects of our Russian Federation. And we're going to form a special committee in the government which will be devoted to the projects of developing the Northern Sea routes. By 2030, the volume of transportation in the northern corridors should grow by 1.5 times. First of all, due to higher competitiveness of these routes. And what's important for importers and exporters is the development of the trans-border payment infrastructures. We see that the trust to the Western payment systems has been undermined, and it was undermined by themselves, effectively. And we see that the payment for Russian exports, payments for the Russian exports in the using non-friendly currencies is reduced twofold. And we see that we're approaching 40% of payments in rubles now. We see that we see that the payment in rubles for our goods has increased to almost 40%, 39%. And we will continue working on using national currencies for international payments. And we will continue working on making those transactions more secure. And we will be also creating payment systems which will be resistant to sanction pressure and political pressure in the BRICS area. I'd like to remind you that in BRICS in the current year, we have new participants, Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Ethiopia. So our share in the global GDP has grown to 36%. And in terms of population, up to 46%. So BRICS has got a great potential for joining in new participants. And there's desire of new partners to continue this partnership, to join BRICS, will be supported. We will continue not only in the area of finance, but also in terms of security and other areas. We will be acting, taking into account global trends, and we will also be taking into account the growing potential of national economies. So the second structural change is the new quality of economic growth in Russia, due to growth to an active policy to change the economy to the supply side economy. And we see that the first quarter of this year, 5.4% is the growth of supply. So we see that the growth of our economy is higher than the global growth. And we see this dynamic is determined not by commodities, which is very important. In 2023, I'd like to also note that GDP at 45.5% of GDP was ensured by basic industries: logistics, construction, processing, agriculture, power supply, and others, utilities. And 65 were trade, hotels, retail, and so on. Effectively, we have set ourselves a goal to become one of the 4 leading economies in the world. And according to the World Bank estimates, this was last week, the World Bank has done new calculations, and they put Russia at the 4th place. We are ahead of Japan. Russia has got the 4th place in terms of GDP and in terms of going ahead of Japan in terms of purchasing capacity. But the matter is not with GDP, is not to do with these figures, is not to, the point is not about being on the 4th place. There's not a big difference between Japan and Germany and Russia, but we're ahead. However, we understand that the leadership positions should be strengthened all the time. Other countries are not standing still, and it's important to ensure stable pace of growth for long term. This is our objective. But that's not so. It's not just about those economies that are next to us, Germany and Japan. Other countries like Indonesia, for example, are also catching up. Their population is growing, their economy is developing. So we should not be forgetting that. So we need to strengthen financial, technological, and personnel sovereignty. We need to increase our capacities, increase competitiveness of our products, both on the international markets but also on our domestic market. The result of such development should be reduction of import to 17% by 2030. We've got good dynamics. In 2023, the import in Russia was 26% of GDP. In 2022, and in 2023, it was 19% of GDP. So it was 32 trillion rubles. So I said that the dynamics is very clear, and I would like to emphasize that the share of import should not be reduced due to administrative burdens. It should be reduced due to development of our own production capacities, our own processing capacities, agriculture, service industry, IT, and so on. Example of success of such strategy. There are many examples, but for example, in agriculture, we have created a modern meat industry. Its capacity over the last 15 years has grown twofold. Now Russia is on the 4th place in terms of production of meat, and it's increasing supply of meat to the world markets. And by the way, we're 100% supplied through domestic means. So we have set a new record of production in 2023, and our production is in the region of 80 kilograms per person, with the world average is about 40. And we need to start new projects and create new workplace employment for our people around the country. And the investment next year, capital investment should be around 60% capital investment. We understand what that is, what that creates for the future development, for midterm and long-term development. Over the last few years, I'd like to emphasize everything worked really well for us. I'd like to reiterate that. So the growth of investment was, the target was 4.6%, but then it turned out to be, the actual figure was over 8%. In 2023, the plan was 15.5%, and in actuality, the figure was 27%. So we almost doubled what was planned in terms of investment, capital investment. And of course, investment activity should be provided with resources. I said that we would direct additional resources in order to support industrial mortgages. We will strengthen our tool, which is called the Factory for Financing the projects. So we've got about 2 trillion rubles in that instrument, and I am proposing to gradually increase the capacity of this fund to 600 by 600 trillion rubles. And it's important to also increase the bank financing of technological companies. So we will continue to develop the taxonomy of such projects. We will increase investments in key industries and technological projects. We will increase the number of projects which will be covered by this system, and this will allow us to attract additional investments. Government is happy to share risks with investors. So we have a fund of funds of industrial projects. We have been discussing this for a long time, and we agreed this with business community, and those who actively participated in this are aware of this. We see that that businesses are investing in Russian economy together with this fund, and this will allow us to expand public-private partnerships and also increase investments this way into the space industry. Also, in order to support the investment activity, we need to develop the capital markets. We have to increase its capacity, its attractiveness for investors, and of course we have to pay specific attention to preservation of these funds. And today we have about 30 million retail investors, so-called, and we see that their investments increased to about 9 trillion rubles, and the demand for domestic shares has increased, and it's been ahead of the supply. So we are planning to double the capitalization of the domestic market by 2030. And I invite the government, together with the central bank, to propose measures, what can be done in order to improve the situation, to also how to improve and simplify the investment into small technological companies. And this is a call to central bank and Ministry of Finance. And this is to do with banking transaction and simplifying the structure for that. Also increasing the availability of the long-term money. I'd like to remind you that since the 1st of January of this year, we have a special program for long-term saving for citizens. So we see that you can get some tax benefit on these savings, and this program is a new program, and it's still lagging behind the target figures, and I'm proposing to work on it and improve it. So I'm proposing to lengthen the term that was initially discussed of 3 years to 10 years. And also maybe discuss with employers how employers could participate in this program. And I think this would be great for their staff, and also good for the employers. So we will have new savings certificates that will be introduced next year, which will allow people to save for 3 years and get a high return or interest on these papers. So I know that these financial institutions are trying to even bump up this interest on the deposits that people are getting, and so we'll discuss with about this later on. Since the 1st of January 2025, there will be some insurance programs, which means that the insurance money will be invested into a higher return papers. And so we've got this insurance and investment combined. And in order to guarantee the return on this investment, there will be state insurance of these papers, of these mechanisms. Now we have this mechanism of tax benefit, which allows companies to reduce their income tax by investing into these programs or into these products. This will allow us to control the quality of investment and stimulate certain areas of investment. And I would like to ask the government to create a situation where these sort of benefits could be obtained not just by a single company, but maybe by a group of companies who are involved in this. Regions will be able to regions will be able to liberate certain amounts of money to invest into these programs. And Ministry of Finance has been very receptive to this idea, and we'll be discussing it with them later. I'm sure that regions will support the investors directly using their own budgets. I'd like to emphasize that what I said is in relation to the tax benefits. All of that is done at the level of the subject of the Federation, Russian Federation, but also there will be a federal program which will be aimed at greater social security and also social fairness and reduce the gap between wealth gap. Coming back to the subjects of the Federation in terms of business support, I'd like to point out this mechanism which is called regional standard. And its essence is to ensure single principles for attracting investors on the whole territory of Russia. So each region will be forming a universal investment infrastructure or ecosystem, something that is very clear. So these measures of support are available to all of us, and they're in great demand. Today, we've got a single standard, which is implemented in all subjects of the Federation. Dear colleagues and friends, I'd like to thank the regional teams and government for their work. I know that there are proposals to fix the investment standard in law, and I propose the government to discuss this together with regions. I'd like to emphasize also that objective now is to promote this mechanism and to apply it actively in practice. So this is our objective for the nearest future. And for those teams that will be able to gain best results, we need to also provide for some reward at the federal level. Also, regional standard of investment will allow the Russian Federation to move ahead, significantly ahead in terms of improving investment climate. Over the last year, due to exchange of experience and due to cooperation, we've got 74 regions who have improved their investment rating or investment climate, and this is a better result than what we saw last year. Buryatia and Mordovia and Lipetsk region, Arkhangelsk and Ryazan region have shown very high results, and I congratulate my colleagues on achieving these great results. And I wish you further success. I'd like to add that we will also be working on the national rating of investment and exchange our experience with BRICS partners. In the Agency of Strategic Initiatives, we discussed this and we said that we would be taking our own equivalent of international structures that are used in this area. The third area where we are trying to get better results is the labor market. We've got 2.6% unemployment rate, and we have also reduced the structural component of the unemployment. So that means unemployment among the young people, and it was historically high. 15, 20 years ago, the main question was how to find a job, and today the main question is where to find people. So it's important to restructure the education system in order to train people who are in high demand, and also create opportunity for employees to increase their professional level throughout their career. So we will be transforming the system of professional education in Russia, and by the end of this decade we have to have a very significant part of qualified people, highly qualified people available, who will have a higher income. And the objective of the system of development of labor is to ensure the structural development. This project, a new project, which is aimed at developing the infrastructure of colleges and universities in the shipping and military and other areas. Up to 2028, we will be preparing over 1 million specialists in particular trades, particular field. As for the higher education, in the next decade, we will have 40 university campuses with very modern facilities and opportunities to study, to conduct scientific work, to live and to work. And we will be evaluating the work of universities and colleges using the matrix of salaries of their alumni. So we need very competent specialists, those who will be able to coach the younger generation. So we have to support those who are at the retirement age in willing to share their experience in order to benefit our economy through coaching and passing their experience. The level of salary of the working retirees, we have been discussing this for a while, and we talked about this with the governor of St. Petersburg just before the meeting. I'd like to say that during my meetings with citizens, due to financial restraints and budget restraints, we had some indexation of pensions over the last few years. But today the question is very ripe, and we have to resolve it in the interest of people. And I'm proposing that starting from next year, we will come back to increasing the pensions for the working pensioners. So we see that from February 2025, we will be increasing the pensions, not just for those who are retired, but also for those who are working and retired. And I invite the government to propose a draft of law for the autumn session. The fourth structural change has got it is directly linked to to the quality of change of our economy. We have faced a very objective lack of qualified personnel, and we see that we need to increase the investment into modernization of our companies. We see that Russia has to enter top 25 countries in terms of implementing the robots in robotics in the production cycles. That means we have to introduce about 100,000 robots in the production facilities around the country. So we have a specialized national project aiming at reduce and optimizing the production, and we've got about 100,000 specialists involved in this project. And we have to extend the existing federal projects that modernize the industrial capacities. We also have to involve at least 40% of largest companies into that program of modernization of manufacturing companies. That means it will result in greater production. It will result in greater quality of services and also greater quality of work for their employees. The fifth structural change, is the real digital platform revolution. In the current conditions, increased production is linked directly to greater digitalization. We have to introduce the digitalization into all areas of economy by 2030. So this is a new national project, data economy. We see that in the next 6 years, the major companies should move to the domestically developed software. And we have created a number of measures to support this field. This coefficient will be taken into account when calculating income tax for the companies, how much money they spent on developing their domestic software. So this program will be active up to 2030. So I'd like to invite the government to think about further measures of supporting domestic IT sector program developers. I'd like to reiterate that we have to establish a minimum level of purchasing where there's a certain volume of domestic product that needs to be involved. And this way we can reduce the project terms and also project costs. We see that due to measures that we have introduced, we were able to reduce the average costs of projects and average terms of project by about half over the last several years. So utilities and road construction have got great potential in terms of reusing smart solutions and green solutions on the basis of modern technologies. And in this relation, there is a sixth structural change, which is the forced advanced advanced saturation of certain sectors of economy with innovation and technological solutions. So we are within the top 10 countries in terms of scientific research, and the investment into this has to be at least 2% of the GDP. So we are supporting new projects in the field of automation, in the areas of energy technologies, new materials, chemical, and other industries. We've got a number of solutions, from preparing the specialists to establishing serial production and ensuring high demand for highly technological products. And we are counting on specialized colleges and universities that prepare experts in this field. Of course, we need to continue developing the legal basis in this field so that companies feel comfortable investing into these initiatives. I would like to point out that we've got great intellectual potential in this field, and we have to capitalize on these trends. Of the first 4 months of the current year, Russia has received 8,000 applications for patents and new inventions. So we've got new developments, new technologies in the field of industry and metallurgy and other areas. We have to ensure adequate protection of these new ideas, and also simplify the process of the whole life process of these inventions from patent to serial production. Small innovation companies know how to commercialize new inventions. And as somebody with legal background, I understand where there's could be a legal pitfall. So when somebody invents something, he is the owner of that invention, and there should be some soft market mechanism to ensure that these inventions are not just collecting dust on a shelf. Seventh structural change is the transformation and the strengthening of small and medium businesses in the economy. 6 years ago, we put the objective to increase the number of people involved in small and medium-sized businesses to 25 million people. Some people were laughing at this objective. They thought this was unrealistic. Today, we can confidently say that this objective has been achieved, and achieved ahead of time, ahead of schedule. Our business people, especially younger generation, taking over the market. They are producing the products that is better than Western equivalents very often, or foreign equivalents. And our own trademarks become a very strong element in this. So we've got a lot of trademark registration applications. So we had over 143 applications for new trademarks over the last year. And the process of trademark registration is one of the quickest and most convenient and easiest in the world. So we've got 4 months lead time or consideration time. And for that period, you get a special protective document or order. and that of course we are respecting the culture and the history of our people, where respect and love for the local motherland is very important. So where people want to consume products that are made in Russia. So over half of the subjects of the Russian Federation are actively helping or supporting creative industries in that field, and we are creating this legal basis, legal uh, ecosystem for the creative industries. So we will be increasing the effectiveness of the existing measures of support, and also will be providing new measures of support. I would like to point out that an important role is played by marketplaces, so-called marketplaces. They are creating this infrastructure. It's the system of supply of products where companies, even in remote areas of Russia, get the opportunity to supply their goods to the whole of the country. And I would like to point out for the government that they take into account these marketplaces and also work together with the Post of Russia to ensure the access. We know that we had a special competition, and the number of applications grew by 2.5 times last year. So this is a special project which showcases or highlights a local production in different areas of Russia. And we want these practices to be applied on the regional and national level. I'd like to bring attention of the governors to such products or projects. Also, we see that the local businesses are supporting participants of the special military operation. Their relatives, they're sending their products, technology, and other goods. This understanding of their mission, patriotism, in the best sense of the word, is very, very valuable, and that and we express our respect and gratitude to these businesses. Dear colleagues, the next 8th structural change is to do with uncovering the potential of the regions of Russia, creating points of growth in villages and cities in Russia, creating opportunities for people to grow not just in capital but also in the regions, to find a well-paid job or to start a business and to apply yourself, to bring up children in comfortable conditions. We have new national projects and state programs aimed at healthcare and education, also aimed at culture and improving the environmental conditions. And of course, we need economic foundation in order to implement all these programs. And in this relation in the government, we are discussing together with heads of the largest corporations the support for these programs, and we have some positive examples. For example, Roshydro moved from Moscow to Krasnoyarsk, and of course we can concentrate resources on the growth areas, and we've got a number of master plans for Far East and Arctic regions. We have agreed that we would prepare these documents for another 200 locations in Russia, covering all regions in the country, in order to ensure long-term economic development of regions. We have to develop energy, infrastructure, roads, utilities, and the federal government is providing infrastructure loans to the regions for these purposes. And this portfolio will grow at least by 250 billion rubles per year. And overall, up to 2030, we will have 2.5 trillion rubles provided for these infrastructural projects. But the money will be spread not just depending on geography, but also depending on the competitive competitions effectively. The money that will be available, the subjects of the Russian Federation will have to send to support the infrastructural projects, utilities, in order to build roads and bridges, modernize local transportation, and also modernize local housing. I would like to ask the government in their dialogue with their regions to work through all details of this mechanism. Apart from removing the bottlenecks, we have to, in terms of transportation and infrastructure, we also have to work on the land and real estate that is not used or abandoned. We've got about 181,000 buildings that are empty or unused in the country. And we see that only a fifth of those has got property rights registered. I propose also so if there is a area where garbage is being dumped, if a local business is able to finance the removal of that rubbish, then there should be some measures to support such business. So we need to work through details of this, and we should remove all bureaucratic barriers. We need to think about this and how to use this unused land and this property. This way we will improve the quality of people's life and also engage more of the assets for the purposes of local economy. I'd like to also point out a few things in relation to mortgages. We've got a special program of family mortgages. So all Russian families are able to get a mortgage for 6 years at 6%. And I'd like to propose an additional solution for families who would like to purchase property in smaller towns where there's insufficient growth of residential property construction. They should be able to purchase or use these mortgages irrespective of the age of their children. Also, these benefits will act in all regions of Russia for all families who would like to build their own house. Especially this is important for bigger families with many children. And I would like to ask the government to start these projects from the 1st of July this year. I'd like to add that in order to improve the image of our local cities, we will start a special program, a special competition This program has been very popular and it had very good feedback. For example, building of riverfront and also restoring the cultural projects, and we have to implement at least 1,000 of those this year. It's important that these projects serve to improve tourist attractiveness, and developing tourism is one of the key areas. We see that the share of local tourism should reach 5% within our GDP. And in order for this to happen, we need to continue developing smaller hotels, parks, and other destinations. The measures of our social policy should be not just effective but also fair. We have to aim at reducing the income gap for Russian families, and this also affects the internal demand and increases the capacity of the domestic market. So we're providing tax benefits and benefits payments to families. And also we need to ensure the growth of effective salaries. So we're talking about indexation of the minimum wage, and that's ensured in the constitution. Starting from next year, we will establish a certain ratio of the minimum wage, and this will be tied to the median salary. In 2025, minimum wage will be 48% of the median wage, so 28,000 rubles. So will grow by about 15%, and then the ratio will be increased so that by 2030 the minimum wage would be at least 35,000 rubles. And the last integral change is the increased quality of life for Russian families. This was said in my state address, and what's important is all areas: support of motherhood and support of children, also support for elder generations, improving quality of life. As a result, we need to see the increased life expectancy, and also creating equal opportunities for growing generations. Dear colleagues and friends, global economy has entered an age of cardinal changes. We have multipolar world. We have new principles and connections between countries. Russia is reacting to these changes, and is also changing dynamically. To a great degree, this is the result of the work of our engineers, our expert specialists, our business people who are actively working in the regions of Russia, and they are moving to this values or sticking to the values of support, equality, fairness. So this is what our long-term projects and programs are focused on. We want to ensure political, financial, and people's sovereignty for the country, for the economy. And on that basis, we want to cooperate with countries and other economies. And thank you very much for your patience, and I wish you every success.